Marriage that meets once again. This is the third story in the Nature of Elements book of Rupert's Tales, and this one is about the element of water. Once again, I'll ask you to please not share it with anyone else. The Mystery of Lessons. Rupert the rabbit had never before seen such a strange sight. Somehow seeing a fish out of water just didn't seem right. Then again, Grandmother Spinner said Dylan wasn't a fish at all, but his fins made the dolphin look like one, no matter what he was called. When Grandmother had found Rupert, he hadn't been very far away. She had told him to hurry, that she needed his help again today. So he had brought her to the river to see what he could do. He hoped it wouldn't take too long, and that they would soon be through. Summer was over and getting cool, but it wasn't quite winter yet. Most days it rained in the afternoon, so they were likely to get wet. Of course, for fish, or those who were not fish but still lived in the sea, getting all wet wasn't likely something that would make them unhappy. But Rupert could see Dylan the dolphin was less than happy right now. He was eager to help Grandmother, although he wasn't sure just how. "My name is Rupert," he said, as he and Grandmother drew near. "I am here to help. Don't be afraid. There's no reason to fear." Just then the dolphin blew air out from the hole on top of his head, but Rupert wasn't frightened at all. No, he was curious instead. "I'm Dylan," the dolphin said, "and help is something I really need. I don't like this dirt and grass. I want to get back to soft seaweed. But why are you laying here on the ground, on the grass, and on this sand and dirt?" Rupert asked. "Shouldn't you be in the water so you don't get hurt?" "Ah," Grandmother Spinner said, "not all water is good for our friend here." "No," she went on, "fresh river water is very bad for him, I fear." "Water is bad for him?" Rupert was surprised. "But how can that be? Water is everywhere, in the lakes, in rivers, and in the sea. What's all the noise you're making right here outside of my door? You're making such a fuss you're quite impossible to ignore." Rupert looked around and saw Opal the otter standing nearby. Though her words had been loud and cross, she had a smile that was sly. He knew Opal and had talked with her many times before today. She was always happy and cheerful, and she loved to laugh and play. "Our friend Dylan here," Grandmother explained, "needs to get back to the sea. There isn't a lot of time to waste. That much I'm sure you both can see." "As long as I can stay wet and cool," Dylan said, "I'll be all right. But that swim up the river really gave me a terrible fright." "But why are you even here?" Opal asked. "This just makes no sense to me. The water is fresh and dangerous, not safe and salty like the sea." "The water in the river is fresh," Rupert repeated. "So you say. But isn't that a good thing?" he asked. "Doesn't he want it to be that way?" "Before you answer that," Grandmother turned to the otter and said, "I think Rupert might want to remember a thing or two instead. You spent some time in a people house not so very long ago, and you learned about water while you were there. That much I know." "Yes, that's true," he replied, "and how it falls as rain from the sky. But people can't drink it until it's clean, although I'm not sure why. Do you remember why drinking ocean water is not good for you?" "Rusty told me it's filled with salt," he said, "and it makes you sick if you do." Dylan made some strange noises then, sounds Rupert had never heard before, odd-sounding clicks and high squeaks and whistles, and then he made even more. Opal said to them, "Dylan says to tell you what you say is true, but fresh water is the same thing for him as salt water is to you." "That is more or less right," Dylan said, "although I know it sounds strange. I don't drink the water I live in. That's not something I can change." "He can't stay in fresh water," Grandmother said. "That's just the way he's made. His very life depends on having balance. That's why he needs our aid." "Wow," said Rupert. "There is so much more to water than I ever knew." "And there's more you can tell us," he looked at the spider, "if I know you." "Ha!" said Opal, crossing her arms. "She's a spider, so how can that be? If you want to know more about water, then you should be asking me." Rupert was surprised to see his friend acting so bossy and strange. "Oh, don't worry," said Grandmother Spinner. "That will all soon change. The rain is coming," she explained, "and will help to wash her frown away. Rain is water too, you see, and is often healing in its own way." "Healing?" he asked, looking at Opal. "Is there something wrong with you?" "No," she snapped. I was trying to sleep. Is that a bad thing to do? Why are you even here? She asked Dylan. The water is not your place. Rupert thought he looked sad, though there seemed to still be a smile on his face. I got lost when I was with my pod, just out enjoying the day. There was a strange echo that threw me off, and that led me astray. Your pod? Rupert frowned. What is that, and what kind of echo do you mean? Dylan was turning out to be the strangest thing he had ever seen. Ah, Grandmother waded in. The ocean is filled with many mysteries. What can be seen on the surface makes up a very small part of the sea. And that's why we think of intuition, she said to the otter, as being an important part of the element of water. And trusting what we know beneath the surface of what we can see opens up the whole wide world to so many possibilities. So, said Rupert, thinking hard, healing and intuition are two parts. I have a feeling there's more to tell, and it has to do with our hearts. Just then Dylan gave a sigh, laying his head down on the ground. Then Opal patted him on the head, making a soothing sound. Rupert saw Grandmother smile. Compassion is what she said. It's when someone is hurting, and you wish they weren't instead. Well then, Rupert suggested, it's time we figured this problem out. Once Dylan is on his way home, we'll all be happier, no doubt. But the fresh water hurts him, Opal said with tears in her eyes. You know he cannot stay here, Grandmother said. That is no surprise. Once he gets back to the ocean, the water there will help him to heal. Rupert said, wondering if he was the dolphin, just how he would feel. Dylan could not stay no matter what. That much they all knew was true. Swimming back he would be in pain. There just wasn't anything they could do. And suddenly he got it. Feelings were something he understood. Not every single feeling was one that always made you feel good. I really wish you could stay, Rupert told him, and would be my friend. But leaving now before it's too late is the best thing, in the end. Sometimes pain is part of life, Grandmother said, echoing his own thought. It's up to each of us to accept and learn the lessons being taught. They all stood still for a moment as the day was coming to an end. Twilight was upon them, and the feeling of in-between this time lends. How Dylan would fare on his journey, none of them could know or see. Whether he got back safe or not at all would be a mystery. I'll go with you, I'll go with you, Opal volunteered, to keep you company. There may be something I can do to help. I guess we'll have to see. Oh, I would like that, Dylan said, then slid backwards into the river. Rupert noticed when the dolphin smiled and gave a little shiver. Dolphins, unlike fish, breathe air, not water, Rupert figured out. That was how Dylan had stayed on land, by breathing through his spout. Rupert felt the first few drops of rain as he watched his two friends go. Though he was sad, he knew leaving was part of life's ebb and flow. He let his own tears fall without wiping even one of them away, wishing Dylan an open well, honoring water in his own way. And that's the end. Thank you for listening.